2 years after the assassination attempt against President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, a new government watchdog report is claiming that the Secret Service missed over 100 radio calls about the gunman that day. The gunman's bullet grazed the president's ear and killed bystander Corey Compratore in the crowd. And NewsNation spoke to his widow, Helen, and got her reaction to the report's findings.
Why? Why wouldn't you have reacted from one? I mean, if they would have held him back off that stage and not let him go, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today.
The 64-page report crediting a failure to establish proper communications between the agency and local law enforcement, as well as an undertrained counter-drone system operator with the incident taking place. This comes as President Trump speaks about fresh threats against his life from the Islamic Republic of Iran. The president warning the U.S. military has orders to, quote, decimate and destroy Iran if such an attempt were to be successful. Joining me now is former Secret Service agent Robert McDonald. Thank you for joining us. I wanted to start with the incident in Butler, the attempted assassination of President Trump 2 years ago. What changes have been made to security since then?
Well, good evening, Kelly. Great to be with you, albeit talking about this continuing horrible thing that we experienced 2 years ago. You know, communication was a problem that day, other epic failures in accountability and leadership. I think the Secret Service used this and other events that have happened in the last 2 years to reset, to look at the basics again, make sure all their I's are dotted and all their T's are crossed. You know, the procedures and protocols that have to be implemented every day when the president or other protectees of the Secret Service travel have to be followed perfectly. They have to be followed in accordance with the rules of the road that are proven to work well for the methodologies and procedures for the Secret Service. They did not happen that day. Communication had a lot of issues that day. There were a lot of issues with respect to that line of sight on that building that never should have been not covered in this situation. So a lot of failures that day, but it's been a busy 2 years for the Secret Service, who I think have really tried to shine a light on what went wrong that day, and more importantly, make sure that those things don't happen again.
And certainly a busy 2 years, and even a busy 2 months, really, or 3 months since then. There's already been more attempted assassinations against the president this year. I was there at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. There were 2 other incidents around the White House as well. So how does Secret Service keep up with this constantly evolving threat?
Well, it's very difficult, and it's something that they have to do. They have to do it with personnel. They have to do it with assets. But, you know, just gaining more agents and putting them all through training doesn't mean they're all ready to go to the Presidential Protective Division or the Vice Presidential Protective Division. These things take time. They have to move through the career path in various field offices to get ready to then go support a protective detail. You've got to make sure that all your people are trained, as you mentioned. The operator of the drone that was not properly trained on that day, that contributed to the situation. That was an epic failure day where many, many things went wrong. So the Secret Service needs to piecemeal all of those aspects of its protective apparatus and needs to make sure that they're all working together and in concert with each other so that there's an overlap and that nothing slips through the cracks anytime the president or any of our protectees travel around the world.
And it's not just what we saw here domestically. The president has spoken more recently about the Iranian plot on his life. We have that moment.
It's a very dangerous profession. No, I'm number one on the kill list for Iran. They're lovely people. I'm number one. I like being number one on TikTok better, but I'm number one on the list for killing.
And we just saw last week the president was advised to switch planes for security reasons. How do we know the threats from foreign actors, and how do they complicate the work of the Secret Service?
Yeah, look, we've got to be prepared for a single gunman, as you saw at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and we've got to be prepared for a planned attack, as we saw potentially at the UFC fight night, or as we might have seen with what was brewing over in the Iranian area when he was over there for NATO. Secret Service has to be on top of its game every day. They've got to be perfect at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they've got to get better by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They've got to make sure that they are diligent, vigilant, and again, making sure that they are looking at every potential aspect through the intelligence community, through investigative community, and through their protective methodologies to make sure that the president, his family, vice president, and his family, that they're all safe, be it here or somewhere abroad. These are very, very important issues. The Secret Service takes it seriously, but they have to continue to take that seriously every day and get better and better and better at their job.
And as we just said, there have been several attempts on the president's life. So how are attempted assassins really getting this close to the president, and what needs to happen to reduce that number?
Well, look, people are taking the time to do an advance on the Secret Service. People are checking out where the president is scheduled to go. People are able to look at different things on the web or Google or different assets that they can obtain that we didn't have all those years ago. So we've got to be up to speed on everything that's out there working against us, and always trying to stay one step ahead of somebody doing nefarious activity to one of our protectees. We have to be on our game every day. We have to make sure that we're being creative in how we're developing a protective advance. You've obviously been around us to know how some of those methodologies work, and we've got to make sure they're implemented properly. You can have all the ingredients in the world, but if you don't have the proper implementation of those assets and personnel, the result is not going to be good.
Well, I certainly see the members of Secret Service day in and day out over at the White House, making sure everybody is safe. And this is something that they continue to deal with. And we certainly have them in mind as they are working very hard to protect the president and those around him. Just really quickly, 2 years since that incident in Butler, what do you think is the biggest thing they've learned?
Well, I think the Secret Service cannot fall into a complacency situation. I think that was one of the key elements that came out of that. Look, communication is important. Liaison is important. The Secret Service does that very well. We're going to be up at the UN General Assembly in a couple of weeks with hundreds of world leaders. The Secret Service is still very good at what it does, but it needs to make sure that it doesn't allow itself to get complacent, that it's always on offense trying to protect the people and places that we have to protect.
Absolutely. Robert McDonald, thank you for your time today.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.